移民生活，五味俱全，深入浅出，娓娓道来。移民生活，娓娓道来。Welcome the two of you to come on our WeChat show. We're again shooting this episode in English. We're going to put in Chinese subtitles, but it's very excited that I welcomed our Minister of State responsible for trade in the newly elected NDP provincial government. Welcome to our show, Minister Chow.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the show. And as you know, we know each other from, previous activities in the community, so it's great to be here. And you're now hosting a show. It's great for the community and Jerry as well, which I just met, and we hope to talk with you because you have so much experience in terms of exporting the stuff that BC is known for.
So Jerry is very relevant to the trade topic because he has participated in the Gateway Conference in Toronto as well as in Detroit. This is a series of conferences set up by Alibaba Group, Jack Ma, to sell his idea about building this platform for exchange of commodities, is particularly selling commodities to China to satisfy this increasing demand of the Chinese market.
Yes.
So thank you. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me here.
So Minister Chow, it's a pleasure to have you as a Minister of the State. We had previously a Minister of State responsible for childcare, Katrina, on the show.
Great.
So I know that you've been previously elected 2 times as Vancouver City Councillor from 2008 to 2014 or 11, 2005 to 11. For 6 years.
Yes.
As I remember, when I first immigrated to this country, I often watch you being the representative for the Chinese community because you're often interviewed by the Chinese media.
I hope I said the right things.
Thank you for being the voice for us.
Well, no, I was just doing what I am supposed to do, like as Canadian, as citizens. In this system, we need to participate. We really need to give our voice so that the community knows where we stand or how each community stands. It's important. There is really no right or wrong. It's really a discussion of ideas. So it's great. And now, of course, we have more than just one political members from Chinese community. We have many, right? Whether it's liberals, NDP, or conservatives. So that's a good thing, and it would help us as a country in Canada to live peacefully together, to be able to build a country, because we all bring different ideas, right?
So Minister Chow used to work for BC Hydro for 30 years before getting into politics. It's a highly, in a highly technical position.
Yes.
Well paid and stable, but he chose to commit to public service, and this is quite a change. It's a good example set for a lot of people from the ethnical community.
Well, that's right. I mean, I was trained as an engineer, a mechanical engineer, and I graduated from UBC in 1975. And back in those days, you could still get a job and work for one company for life, but that's not the case anymore. And so I worked for BC Hydro for over 30 years until 2005 or so. I basically retired, semi-retired, because I was elected on city council. So and it takes up too much time. So I had to basically take time off or take retirement.
Well, I think it's great that politics finally have some engineer mind.
Well, you're right, Jerry. I mean, in the field of politics, technical people usually don't get into this kind of debate, but it's important because we do have ideas to. We are logical.
And pragmatic.
We're pragmatic, and we could offer our perspective and insights, and it would help the debate. A lot of the infrastructure question is all coming down to numbers, benefit to cost ratio, how much is, required to build certain things, and what are the ramifications for certain product or certain process,
So I want to take a few minutes for Mr. Chow to talk to us about your job as a Minister of State. I understand it takes a lot of sacrifice to be a federal minister because you have to fly across the country and constantly adjust your hours. But as a provincial minister, especially for someone in your age, you're a couple of years older than me, it must be a challenge, right? You could have enjoyed your entire life, but it's a very demanding position, I would imagine. So what is your daily routine?
Well, right now, since Labor Day, we have been going to Victoria for the legislature session, so every week, and we come home on a Thursday night. So Friday, we'll go back to our community office in order to see the people who live in the riding. And Saturdays and Sundays, we'll go to community events, whether it's the library or dinners and, whatever events that's happened, particularly in your riding. So it's very busy. So since September, we have been non-stop doing this every week. So right now is Sunday. We have to be back in Victoria in order to be ready for the House to start tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's been pretty challenging. And I think for me, being an older person, my children are grown up, is not so bad. But I think for the younger members who have actually children like around 12, some as young as 2 years old, it is a challenge. And it's a very challenging job, and you're away from your family. And so now some of the younger members actually, every opportunity they would bring their spouse to Victoria, just for a short period of time, so the family wouldn't be separated for a long period of time.
That's a challenge to live in a big country and a big province, right?
So you were talking about federal minister. That's even worst, because for
the time zone.
The time zone for BC, that's the farthest from Ottawa. Here we are at least just going to Victoria, so it's not a huge challenge, but it still takes time.
So today, I like to focus on trade. Because we have a new government, we also have the constant changing economy, put on a new face every once in a while. Now we have the fast-growing commerce, the new style of commerce coming from China, particularly. And maybe Jerry can start by telling us and bring us up to speed on what's going on right now in terms of Chinese, commercial plan, and as well as its impact on the global market, and what does it mean to us?
Yeah, I actually went to both the Alibaba Gateway event, one in Troy back in June, and the very, very second one that was in Toronto in September. I was actually very catchy by the name. It's called Gateway, because I know BC had a Gateway to Asia Pacific policy. But that event is basically Alibaba puts on the show and encourage small and middle business from the United States and from Canada to hatch on their existing platform for the Chinese consumption market. I think it's a great initiative, not only from Alibaba's perspective, but from our countries or the business within our province. I think it's a great opportunity to tap into a large market as large as China, and also later on might have other opportunity to tap into the markets in Southeast Asia, because we all know that Alibaba is expanding themselves into Southeast Asia as well.
I think, it's right. What I know is I think China is actually more advanced than Canadians in terms of e-commerce. I understand that nowadays they will just go and pay stuff just using this phone. That's the main means of paying, and we're actually lagging behind. So I think that Mr. Jack Ma, who came here and talking about it, I think is very exciting to let us know what the world is doing, right? So it's important, and the electronic payment system is the most important. If you get that, underway, then that's the first thing for selling goods. So I had the opportunity to talk to the Canadian Consulate General who's stationed in Shanghai. He came back and he told us, how people live their daily lives in terms of e-commerce. He said, well, our blueberries from BC, right? They're also sold in supermarket. And of course, the people would actually go to the supermarket and they would actually use a phone, take a picture of the blueberry, and then they would send it to the e-commerce company. I said, I want something like that. And the reason, I said, well, why would they do that? He said, well, because they have more trust in the e-commerce company in the quality. So they would actually order and pay for it by the phone, and before they got home, the blueberry already arrived home.
You don't need to carry the groceries.
That's right. Yeah, you don't have to carry it. They just use that as an example. Oh, what do the blueberries look like?
Yeah.
And they are actually more confident of the fact that you are, for example, if that blueberry comes from BC, that is from BC. Instead of the stuff in the store, I'm not saying that's the case. Maybe they worry that it got other products mixed in, or maybe it come from another country. So they have that kind of credibility. So that's great. I mean, we have to do that.
That shows the maturity of the e-commerce.
Oh no, I think China is way ahead.
Yeah.
Let's be frank. And I think because China developed on new platform, right? They didn't have to, infrastructure. They don't have to deal with the old stuff. So that's a great advantage.
Well, I think it's also an advantage for us to have a minister that's familiar with what's going on in Asia, because you are from Hong Kong.
Yes.
And you inevitably are very familiar, and you speak the language too. You can understand what's going on in Asia. Nowadays, I often joke with people, you cannot convince a person who has never been to China how advanced China is.
Yeah.
You just need to send him to China.
Exactly. I think so. This is the advantage of us here in BC, because we're such diverse citizens, people coming from all over the world. I mean, one of our assets, and this is actually one of our economic drivers, foreign students. We have 130,000 over foreign students here, and they all study, contribute to the economy, and they also bring home the knowledge and idea. And so it's a great way to be able to do business, because then they would have experienced what Canada and BC is all about, and they'll go home.
I think both Jerry and I has acquired Canadian education. I was an international student. You are a little bit different, but retaining, retaining international talents that's educated here is important.
You mentioned that you just interviewed the Minister of State, Katrina Chen, for childcare. She was an international student, so she actually came from Taiwan and studied here, and then she got really attached to the land, and she became Canadian, and she became active in politics. So that's great.
Almost all about this country. Diversity is truly a blessing to this country.
Sure, it would be.
You have visitors, you have international students, you have new immigrants. Then later on, we all attach to the land, and we become citizens of this country.
And I often argue with people that doesn't matter whether you are a visitor or permanent resident or even a citizen. As long sometimes if you're from the same ethnicity, actually you represent the same group, because on the street nobody is wearing a label that says what kind of immigration status I am. So in the sense that we are all together in a way, we are all, our interests are overlapped. So
and particularly, we are facing some difficulties in terms of the trading relation with the U.S. It's more urgent for us to develop our trading relationship elsewhere. I mean, our neighbor, the United States, is still very important to us. But I think it now gives us more urgency and the motivation to really, because I think I've been in this country over 50 years, and we had been very comfortable just trading with U.S., right? Because it's our great neighbor, and we're next door. We speak the language. Culturally, we're more closer.
Yeah.
And so it's always easier to do it. And if you could just make a living doing it that way, why not? But now I think we're forced to look elsewhere,
Yeah.
dealing with other countries, not just China. Other countries around the Pacific Rim have different culture. You know, once you know the culture, you will be comfortable.
Totally.
It's just that before,
Absolutely,
yeah. I think that's I think where we come from. I think it's too bad that I don't speak Mandarin. If we were able to speak Mandarin, we could converse in Mandarin. But on the other hand, we are using the common language of the country, well, of BC, to communicate, and the people will see us. Hey, we are Canadian. Well, we look different than the rest, but we're talking common language, English.
We speak the
Yeah,
same
we speak the same
language.
language. And all the foreign students, the young ones who come here, is able to converse well in English. That is great.
Yeah.
And I think that's really,
That's also the language of commerce.
yeah, that's also,
today,
yeah.
That's actually the purpose of my show, is to turn diversity into our advantage by finding the common language and the common tool that we can realize this.
Well,
Now,
speaking of the diversity of the residents here or the visitors here in this province is really translate into the diversity of our trade.
Yes.
There was actually, I'm using the ministry's data for last 10 years, from 2007 to 2016, our dependence on the trade to the United States is decreasing from 60% to 50%.
Yes. Yeah.
And the increase with China is from 5% to 15%. And both our trade to India and China all grow over 250% for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, for the BC trade, in the last 10 years, our trade with China has grown 300%.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
Now, Minister, I have this question for you, that China is a massive country and it's a huge economy, the second largest in the world. And it has all this, we talked about this, not only we need to understand China in a way that we shouldn't stay on the level that we only understand the major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. We should also understand other cities of a regional significance. Cities even like the northeast of China and central China. For example, we actually, it's the NDP government back in 1974,
Yes.
led by Dave Barrett, the provincial, premier back then. He led a team and done a very thorough tour to China. He's visited the northern provinces. He visited central. He went to Shijiazhuang and visited Dr. Bethune's, where he was buried. And he also been to Taishan, Guangdong.
Oh yes, yeah,
Taishan.
okay, yeah.
So these are great initiatives to start this conversation and start the trade relation. We've seen the last government, they were in government for 16 years. So I'd like to get your view on what has been accomplished and what has, where are the gaps that we need to identify, and where should we go in terms of identifying new opportunities in different regions in China?
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think we should always be mindful of our strengths, right? The strength of BC, it's in the quality of, say, the agricultural products, the seafood, and our lumber, the engineering wood, and
natural resources.
Natural resources. Our strength still a natural resource, but then other items are coming up. But of course, dealing with these items are now changing in terms of e-commerce. Right now, you have to actually get on that platform in order to do it. And the other one that's really important for us would be such as some of the high tech in aviation. For example, our trade staff just led a mission to Beijing. The 2017 Beijing Aviation Show just concluded. Also, there was 12 companies led by ministry staff. So they were public servants, civil servants to Beijing and try to show what we can offer. And I understand we have a helicopter company that signed on So we have some strength in terms of it's like a niche market. We are not a big manufacturing center in Canada, but in terms of the helicopter and some of the aviation, the helicopter and seaplane, we are actually getting some orders from China.
We are highly concentrated in high tech
on
industries
high tech.
because we are important contractors for even when the U.S. military has built their F-18.
We are also an important subcontractor even for Boeing. Like a lot of the wing section and that was actually made in the interior,
BC,
in BC, and so, and of course now we're also getting into the pollution control, like
the
environmental issue, the green sector. That's it.
Very important. Very important, and very supplementary to the Chinese, the China direction that China is taking.
So that's important. That's what we can offer.
Good.
Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, animation, like gaming. We're also digital media. That's also because we just opened up the university. Northern campus, right? And so our film industry is also gaining some importance in China, and among those foreign students who come, some of them are study film.
Building the infrastructure for selling your goods.
Selling your goods.
Those are the investment opportunity based on trade.
Yeah. Well, there was a group in Richmond who are just. Not just, but they are restaurant owners, right? And they said, hey, some of their members wanted to invest in China. And of course, their selling point, while they're thinking about it, would be using BC products,
Seafood,
guarantee quality, known quality. So that's the kind of thing, it's actually an investment by people from BC, but using BC products. So that's certainly very important.
The reason I asked Minister about the second and third tier cities in China is because Chinese government has long moved beyond developing only economies of those major cities. We long have a saying in China that most opportunities are actually in the second and third tier cities, although they have different terminologies. But it's important for Canadian government and BC government to recognize the diversity, the complexity of the economy, and how it's growing. And the better we have, Sun Tzu had told us, the better we understand our opponents, the better we are likely to succeed, right?
But that also goes for us, Canada. We're accepting immigrants, right? For example, in our ministry, in fact, our ministry is organized differently than the last government. We have jobs, trades, and technology. So attached to the technology, there's a parliamentary secretary. He actually is a software engineer, so he actually helps the ministry to do that. I do the trade, helping with the trade and then the jobs under Minister Bruce Ralston. And so under that, say, immigration idea and everything, we should also direct the immigrant coming here to the interior town. Right? Not everybody coming to the lower mainland. I'm not saying, hey, you live in the lower mainland, so you don't want more people to here. That's not the case. I think the opportunity is, economic opportunity is better, particularly for young people. It's better out in Fort St. John, where our oil patch, our oil country, better in the Kelowna, where we have software engineer and we have a lot of manufacturing base. So I think we
Nelson,
also
BC, we have a high demand for
high demand,
technicians.
And the young people are adaptable. Then once they settle in the community, I mean, Prince Rupert is a bit, yes, it's far away, but it's actually a very good port, and we have the rail system whereby most of the containers that are designated for Chicago goes to Prince Rupert. So there's a great potential in terms of, their real estate is cheaper, everything is cheaper.
And also good for the sustainability of this part of the economy.
And if you really look at, I always said, you could actually, because I was born in China, in Guangzhou, you could actually go to China, to Guangzhou to shop for a weekend and be home here on on
That's
the
right.
airline. So
I find it's easier now to go to China than go to Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
Really. I
Yeah,
usually I
well,
wait for
cheaper.
2 to 3 ferries to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to the island.
yeah, so imagine if you're at Prince Rupert and their airport is on an island, but let's say if this become a major city center and if you could fly from there to Asia, it would be that much closer because by ship it's a few days closer. That's why you choose that port.
That's what we discussed, Minister, that it's almost ridiculous for us not to develop our trade with Asia Pacific because of our strategic, our geographic location, right? It's a huge advantage. So in terms of identifying the second and third tiers of cities in China to do business with, I have a suggestion. Maybe we can look at the visa offices. Immigration Canada recently set up. They set up like 5 to 7 centers, visa centers in China. We can also look at the previous provincial government, where they set up these provincial offices. And we can use this already built infrastructure to further develop our trade relations.
That our ministry has about 14 trade investment offices all in the Asia Pacific, and we are opening up one in Singapore. And of course, we're giving $800,000 budget to actually open additional office in the U.S., particularly in the San Francisco area, in Seattle, that dealing with high tech. But so that we need to do, right? That's the only way you could get more relationship building and more trade activities.
Absolutely.
Anyways, it's great to have you on the show. I'd like to speak to you more, but because of the length of our show and because you are a busy guy, we'll let you go. But we thank you so much for coming on our show. Thank you also, Jerry. And all the best to BC Trade. I will be monitoring it closely, and I will be talking to you more about it, hopefully, in the future.
Well, hopefully we'll work on it, and there'll be some good news, because we also need the jobs too. One of the challenges we have is creating good jobs. I mean, housing is so expensive. That's because also the average